So Michael Popok, will he or won't he? Will he or won't he? The he being Scott Macafee, the Fulton County criminal court judge who oversees all things Donald Trump and his other co-conspirators in the Georgia election interference case. Rather than giving you updates about substance in the case, a trial setting, motion practice about the indictment, I have to continue to talk to you, unfortunately, about whether Fani Willis, the elected Fulton County district attorney, and Scott Macafee are going to be reaching a divorce, and whether Scott Macafee is going to remove Fani Willis and Nathan Wade, the special prosecutor, from the case, which would be a tremendous setback after more than 2 years of investigative work, special purpose grand jury work, a grand jury work, and all of the post-arraignment issues that she's handled so masterfully. If we were to lose Fani Willis, what's the issue and what's the next step? The next step, March 1st, there's going to be a legal argument hearing. We covered on the MeidasTouch network several days of an evidentiary hearing, meaning the judge wanted to hear evidence, wanted to see what evidence there was to suggest that there was some sort of unjust enrichment, a legal doctrine, which says that you're not allowed to line your pockets with money that you're not entitled to. Did Nathan Wade line his pocket? Was he the boyfriend of Fani Willis? Did she purposely put him on the job and pay him money to benefit her? There has to be a bias and a known conflict that's established in the facts, not in innuendo. That's the burden of Trump and Mike Roman and the other co-conspirators who have joined along in a feeding frenzy to try to get rid of Fani Willis. Now, look, we made it clear on this network that if Fani Willis did something inappropriate and violated ethical rules, she should be removed. We just, based on the evidence that we've seen at the evidentiary hearings, it looks like it's much ado about nothing. However, with one caveat, I would have hoped, and I would have done it a different way had I been in Scott Macafee's chair on his bench. I would have held the legal arguments first to understand and frame the issues. And then if the legal arguments were sufficient to make out some sort of prima facie basic case against Fani Willis to have her removed and replaced, then I would go to an evidentiary hearing to hear evidence. In other words, I'd have the lawyers make a proffer, which is lawyers saying what the evidence, what they contend, the evidence that they will put on will show. This witness would testify as follows, Your Honor. This witness would testify as follows. This subpoenaed material would demonstrate the following. And then I'd hear that along with the law, and I'd make a decision whether there was at least a prima facie case being made to get the case even out of the starting blocks. He didn't do that. Instead, he went right to the evidence, which is why we watched almost in horror Fani Willis being dragged through the mud along with Nathan Wade about every personal and intimate detail of them as human beings. Now, the question is not, for me, whether the facts, as I know them, support a disqualification of Fani Willis, because I don't believe they do, under my interpretation or analysis of Georgia ethics law. However, sometimes it's not the crime, it's the cover-up. And what Donald Trump is trying to persuade Judge Macafee is that Fani Willis was less than truthful in her representations to the court about the timing of the relationship and the rest. Let's put it this way. If she told the absolute truth about the timing of the relationship and the timeline of when she hired Nathan Wade, the decisions that were made and all of that, I don't see a case at all to remove her. But if in the course of doing that, she made a misstep, and I don't know if she did, I'm not saying she did. The purpose of the hot take is a hypothetical, a posit, because that's what's going to be the subject matter on the March 1st hearing that the judge is going to hold on the actual motion to disqualify her. If she was less than candid or truthful, if she misled the court as an officer of the court about when the relationship with Nathan Wade started, how often they were together, and the timeline is different than what we have anticipated, the result here could be different. There's new evidence that's been, of course, released by the Trump side that suggests, and I don't know if it's true yet. We're going to see Fani Willis's response in the next couple of days. That, for instance, Fani and Nathan Wade communicated over 10,000 times during a certain relevant time period. That he would go to her apartment, and that their cell phone tower records, or what we call pinging from cell tower record that somehow they were able to obtain, which demonstrate that he came late at night and left early in the morning on several times when they allegedly were not in a relationship. It doesn't matter if they're two human beings who are consenting adults decide that they want to have a relationship. That's fine. Question is, when she was questioned by the judge and through these defense lawyers, was she forthright in her responses? Because as I said, sometimes it's not the crime, it's the cover-up for no good reason. Now, from what I can see from Fani Willis, she possesses so much integrity, personal integrity and character. We saw it on full display during her fiery testimony, where she welcomed the opportunity to take the stand and take on the defense lawyers here. Problem with that, the more that she defended herself, she might have won the battle, but the question is, has she lost the war? Has she demonstrated that she can no longer, yes, they baited her into doing this, but that she can no longer be impartial? In other words, did she take the bait set by Donald Trump? And by taking the bait, and yes, being forceful in the defense of herself, has she taken herself out of the running going forward as being a dispassionate prosecutor in the case, which she needs to be, right? She needs to leave her feelings at the courthouse door and do her job. And the question is, what did the judge observe about the demeanor and the professionalism of Fani Willis during that period? And that's going to go into the mix for the March 1st hearing that the judge is going to hold. Now, what I think is off the table completely, which is a good thing, is the secondary remedy and relief that they're looking for, which is to have the indictment dismissed. I don't see that happening. I think the chances of that happening are well less than 5%. That's how low they are. Their grounds would be, oh, well, this whole thing is just conjured up in order to benefit her boyfriend and have him earn money. He earned a lot less money on the public dollar than he would in private practice. Do you ever feel like money is just flying out of your account? You have no idea where it's going? I know that feeling. It's all the subscriptions. Think about it. Between streaming services, fitness apps, delivery services, parenting apps, it's endless. I'm guilty of it. So I use Rocket Money to help me find out what subscriptions I'm actually spending money on, and I had them cancel the ones I didn't want anymore. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills. I never have to get on the phone with customer service. They'll even try to get you a refund for the last couple of months of wasted money and negotiate to lower your bills for you by up to 20%. All you have to do is take a picture of your bill, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has helped save its members an average of $720 a year with over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/legalaf. That's rocketmoney.com/legalaf. rocketmoney.com/legalaf. And more importantly, Fani Willis didn't bring the indictment. A combination of the special grand jury and then the indicting grand jury did that. Prosecutors don't indict. Prosecutors can bring criminal charges by way of what's called an information. But when they use a grand jury process, which they have to do in this kind of case, it's the grand jury that decides whether to indict. So even if there's some untoward conduct by the prosecutor, as long as it didn't infect the grand jury process, which there's no claim anywhere by the Trump side that it did, then the grand jury process is sacrosanct and is inviolate and generated an indictment against Donald Trump. Standing on the shoulders of another special purpose grand jury. Remember, Fani Willis, didn't just, decide one day, get up in the morning, go after Donald Trump. She could have gone right to a grand jury, presented her evidence. She didn't do that. She spent 7 months getting advice from an advisory grand jury, a unique animal, a unique cat in Georgia that a prosecutor can use to make sure that her decision to seek a prosecution is right. It's almost like a mock jury, or a model court, where she gets the opportunity to present evidence to a special purpose grand jury who doesn't indict but makes a recommendation. And they recommended that at least 20 people be indicted. She didn't even indict all the people that the special purpose grand jury wanted her to indict. She narrowed it down to about 14, actually about 16, including Donald Trump. So that kind of undermines, for Scott Macafee, the judge, he can say, I'm not dismissing the indictment. In fact, I don't even think that's in the cards any longer. But if Fani Willis is removed after 2 years of investment in the case, and or her office is lopped off and then replaced by a council, there's an entire bipartisan council in Georgia that is used to remove a prosecutor. In other words, the judge doesn't have the power to pick the new prosecutor or the special prosecutor, or to go to a different county and go grab a different prosecutor and bring them in. That's for the movies. In real life in Georgia, there's a council of prosecutors who meet, and they would pick who the new prosecutor would be. So it's not the Governor Kemp, and it's not McAfee. It's this council, and then they have to, evaluate the case about whether they're going to continue to prosecute it. That's all going to cause delay. We're going to be in May or June if this Fani Willis gets removed. If she doesn't get removed in March, because there'll be a March decision by Scott Macafee. If she doesn't get removed, then you'll expect Mike Roman and Donald Trump and all the rest then file some sort of appeal in Georgia state court, the lower level appellate court, and then all the way up presumably to the Georgia Supreme Court on the issue, and the case could stay in. It could be stayed. A pin could be put in it until then. So, based on this, Donald Trump's obtained what he wanted. He's derailed the Georgia election case at least through the summer, and if there's appeals beyond. In terms of it, because whatever McAfee rules, one side or the other is going to object. And so she's not immediately removed. There'll be an order. It'll probably be stayed. The whole case will be stayed. It'll go up to appellate courts and back, and that could take 3 to 6 months at a minimum. Now we're deep into the summer, and there's no way to get that case started really reasonably before November at this point. And then after November, it depends on the winner. Joe Biden wins. Then the prosecution continues. Joe Biden doesn't win. Trump will try to move to stay the case at least until he stops being president for at least 3 or 4 years. As witnesses fade, witnesses' memory fades, and maybe there's a change in the government and change in prosecutors. One little side note to end the hot take. Both Scott Macafee is an elected judge in Georgia and Fani Willis, an elected district attorney, are on the ballot in November, along with Donald Trump. They're down ballot in Georgia, but if you're in Fulton County, you'll see Scott Macafee running for election, or they call it, there's another word for it, retention is usually called for judges, if he's already a judge, to be retained. And then an election for Fani Willis against whomever decides to go after her in the primary or otherwise. But just to show you the irony of all ironies, you got Trump on top of the ballot, and then McAfee and Fani Willis running as well. We'll continue to follow the new filings leading up to the March 1st hearing in front of Judge McAfee, including by Fani Willis, right here on the MeidasTouch Network and on Legal AF. And then on Wednesdays and Saturdays with our main podcast, Legal AF. The title's Just What You Think. And then on hot takes like this one, and on audio podcast platforms, whatever you use, Google, Apple, Spotify, and the like. So until my next hot take, you can give me a thumbs up and leave a comment. It helps with the ratings here. Until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting.
Love this video? Make sure you stay up to date on the latest breaking news and all things Meidas by signing up to the MeidasTouch newsletter at MeidasTouch.com/newsletter.